Okay, so A Catcher in the Rye. I mean, come on, who hasn't spent at least one class trying to unpack this thing, right?
Right.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Holden Caulfield, he just sticks with you, you know?
He really does.
So that's what this deep dive is all about. We're going beyond the SparkNotes version of Holden to figure out what makes him tick. Why are we still talking about this book like decades later?
Well, that's it, right?
Yeah.
He just gets under your skin, and he never really leaves.
Yeah.
And I think there's a reason this book never gets old, you know?
Yeah.
You can connect to that angst, but you know it's more than just, like, teenage angst.
Right.
He wants something real, and he's stuck in a world that just feels phony, you know?
And he tells you about it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you are in his head from page 1.
Yeah.
That voice. Like when he's talking about leaving school and he goes on about goodbyes.
Yeah.
He says, if I get a chance to remember that kind of stuff, I can get a goodbye when I need one at least. Most of the time I can. As soon as I got it, I turned around and started running down the other side of the hill toward old Spencer's house.
And he can't even tell you about saying goodbye without going off on a tangent.
Exactly.
Like, that's Holden right.
Totally.
But that's what's so real about it, right?
Yeah.
That conversational, like, rambling style.
Yeah.
All that slang, phony, crummy.
Yeah.
You're just in his head.
It just sucks you right in. It's not even just the slang. It's like there's this rhythm to it. Like he's building a wall between him and like everything else.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the granddaddy of all Holden anxieties. Phonies.
Oh, yeah.
They're everywhere.
Well, and that's what's so interesting, because it's not just about them being fake. When he calls someone phony, it's like they're buying into this system, right?
Mm-hmm.
This system that he thinks is meaningless. It's all about appearance. And it freaks him out because deep down, he's just terrified of becoming that.
Like he's projecting or something, right?
Right.
And it's always people like Mr. Haas, right? This old headmaster.
Yeah, yeah.
Who's really just trying to fit in, play by the rules that Holden wants to completely, like, torch. He says, Haas would be charming as hell and all, except if some boy had little old funny-looking parents. Like, any kind of social mask is just, it's the worst thing.
Totally. It's that insincerity. Anything that even hints at conforming to what he sees as fake.
Yeah.
He can't stand it. And I think that's part of why he's so drawn to Jane Gallagher.
Yeah. Jane. She's like the one person he won't even try to like be cynical about. She's this pure, genuine.
Yeah.
He holds on to that. Like when he's talking about Stradlater going out with her, he's like, Jane Gallagher, I said. I even got up from the washbowl when he said that. I damn near dropped dead. You're damn right I know her. Like raw emotion right there.
Yeah.
And we don't see that a lot with Holden.
No, we really don't.
That vulnerability.
It's true. And it's like those moments when he talks about Jane, we see this sensitivity that he's always trying to hide. You remember that story he tells about the way Jane plays checkers?
Oh, yeah.
She wouldn't move her kings. She just liked the way they looked when they were all in the back row. It's this tiny little detail.
It's such a small thing.
But it says so much about how Holden sees her, you know? She's this unique soul, and the rest of the world is just, like, generic. It's like she's this untouched, pure thing, you know? And he doesn't want to mess it up.
It's like she represents this innocence that he's terrified of ruining, which is so interesting because Holden himself, he's got this complicated relationship with honesty.
Right.
The kid lies constantly. Sometimes it feels like there's not even a reason.
I know.
Like on the train with poor Mrs. Morrow, he tells her, it isn't very serious. I have this tiny little tumor on the brain.
It's almost worse when it's something like that. You're like, Holden, why?
Yeah.
But it's like they all come from this place of insecurity.
Oh, totally.
He's so scared of letting anyone in, letting his guard down.
It's so much easier to just put up a wall.
Right. It's like a defense mechanism.
Push everyone away. Which is funny in a way because you can tell he wants to connect with people. He just goes about it all wrong.
Oh, 100%.
Sally Hayes, Carl Luce, even those nuns he talks to, he leaves that whole encounter feeling like he messed it up somehow.
Yeah, and I think that's where that whole phony thing comes back to bite him.
Oh, how so?
Well, he's got this crazy high standard for what's real, right? Nobody can live up to it.
Himself included, it sounds like.
Exactly. So he's constantly disappointed. He wants these genuine connections, but he's also terrified of them. You know?
Because they can't live up to this idea he has in his head, right?
Exactly.
And it makes me think about that museum he's always going on about.
Oh, yeah.
Everything's just frozen in time, right?
Right. He says, certain things, they should stay the way they are. You ought to be able to stick them in one of those big glass cases and just leave them alone. Like, Holden wants the world to be a museum.
Just leave it all alone.
Yeah. Nothing changes. Nothing gets ruined.
Which, come on, that's basically his Catcher in the Rye fantasy, isn't it?
100%. He wants to save everyone from falling off that cliff.
And that cliff is, what, growing up?
Yeah, losing that innocence. And he's scared of that, but it's almost like he's drawn to it too.
You almost feel like he's looking over the edge on purpose.
It's like he can't help himself. And then you've got Mr. Antolini giving him that warning.
Oof, that's a tough one, that whole terrible fall business.
That's the wake-up call Holden's not ready for.
Yes. Barrels right past it.
Mr. Antolini sees right through him. He knows Holden's not okay.
But he doesn't know what to do with it.
He's trying to tell Holden, this isn't just about failing out of school. This is serious, man. This is life.
Yeah, and that's what makes that last scene so powerful.
At the carousel.
Yeah, he's watching Phoebe, it's raining, and there's just this, I don't know, what do you think is going on there?
It's a moment of peace. Right, like, Holden's finally letting go a little.
He's not trying to control everything.
Exactly. Yeah. He's just present. He's watching Phoebe just be a kid, and it's enough.
And it makes you think, like, is that it? Does Holden actually figure things out? Does he find what he's looking for?
I mean, that's the big question. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes this book so brilliant. It doesn't wrap everything up in a nice little bow.
Yeah.
Holden's still a mess. He's still got a long way to go.
We leave him at the carousel, and who knows what happens next, right?
Exactly. Salinger doesn't give us all the answers. We have to figure it out for ourselves. What do we think happens to Holden?
And that's what's so great about it, because we all bring our own baggage to this story.
Oh, absolutely. It's like we're on this journey with him, trying to figure out our own lives right alongside him,
Yeah, and we're all trying to find that authentic thing, whatever it is, that thing that makes you feel alive,
And it makes you think, like, what would you even say to Holden if you could?
Oh, man.
If you could have a conversation with him right now, what advice would you give him?
Seriously. This kid is just, like, drowning in anxiety and cynicism.
You just want someone to understand him.
I think we all do, a little bit, right?
Yeah. And maybe that's the point of this whole thing, The Catcher in the Rye. It's not just a story about some messed up teenager. It's about all of us, trying to find our place in the world, trying to figure out what it all means.
It's messy and it's complicated, but hey, that's life, right?
Exactly. And sometimes you just got to find those little moments of beauty, those little glimmers of hope, wherever you can find them. Even if it's at a carousel, in the rain, watching your little sister go round and round.
I think that's a good place to leave it, don't you think?
I think so.
The Catcher in the Rye, everyone. Go read it or read it again. It's worth it.